Aloha, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Warrior Women in the World of Entrepreneurship podcast. I'm your host, Kolo, and I'm joined today with another Warrior Woman guest, Dr. Danielle Shugard. So I'm very excited to have her on today. She is another New Jersey native, so I'm always excited to have another Jersey girl on here too. And Dr. Danielle is currently living in Florida with her husband and two daughters and a variety of pets that she has down there too. And she is a mobile physical therapist that offers services such as in-home physical therapy for equestrians, and telehealth. So she's also the co-author of Body Conditioning for the Horse and Rider. And then you also have a series of courses that you offer as well, Dr. Danielle, which, I think you have one that's called From Couch to Saddle, which is kind of a play on like from
So
couch to
fit a saddle.
5K.
Yeah, we went for the alliteration. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had decided to go into physical therapy after you had an ACL injury, and then you had to go through rehab. That was in high school. And then at that point, you decided that you wanted to apply and you got into Northeastern University. And there you graduated with your doctorate in physical therapy, a BS in rehab science, and a minor in psychology. And all of that definitely helps for horses and riders and just those who aren't even equestrians. So, and then since then, you've been practicing both in Jersey and in Florida where you're living. And there you've been doing, you've been helping in a variety of settings, including outpatient practices, skilled nursing facilities, subacute rehabs, and at multidisciplinary offices. And I want to talk to you today about how you've been able to survive, and if this is the only thing that you're doing right now to earn money for yourself and run your business. So Dr. Danielle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm really excited for this chat today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. So yeah, you pretty much summed it up. We are in Florida full time. We moved down here, my family and I, going on 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in the summer. And so you kind of covered it all up. I do right now, because we're down in Florida, I work part-time. I cover at right now mainly an outpatient clinic, but I also run my own mobile physical therapy. So I see people in their homes, which works really well for people who maybe can't drive for a variety of reasons, or people who are still COVID conscious, or people who just prefer not to go to a busy gym. So I see them in their homes, and then I do a lot of work with equestrians. So my favorite treatment, not to play favorites, but my favorite treatment is when I get to go to a barn and hang out with horses and help people move better. So those are my favorites.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I've been able to work with actually the last in season, I think we're in season 3 now of the podcast. So in season 2, I was able to interview a woman who owns the Hawaii Polo Academy. So I think she was the most recent interview. And I talked to her because I don't know if you had the same, and again, I know those who are you out there listening right now, yes, this is an entrepreneurship podcast. And yes, this goes very niche, but I love horses. I've always wanted to have them since I was younger and ride. And obviously it's not cheap. And that's the first thing everybody tells you. Oh, it's very expensive. It's like, so is martial arts. So is everything, it's like, depends on what you're putting the value to and what you're prioritizing. However, there is a lot of time you meet people who do, not a lot of time, but where you can do a work trade. And I've always wanted to do that. I used to take lessons at Wits End Farm in Jackson, New Jersey.
Oh, yeah, Wits End.
And at that time, I was young too anyway, but they weren't really offering it willingly because I get it. You got to make money as well.
Right.
And just, I'd always tried, and I did have some family friends that had horses too, but people can kind of be very particular about their horses as well, or for some reason not ride them a whole lot, which is fine. Like some might just be pets too, but I'm like, damn it. Like,
you have one, right? Share it with me. You have multiple, share them, right?
Right. And that's not my business, and that's fine. But it's been really hard to find that opportunity.
To kind of break in. Yeah. So I was very fortunate. I grew up in Monmouth County, New Jersey, which I think you were in Jackson, which is, the
Ocean County.
Bayville, Jackson. And so I was fortunate. I had the horse bug. My parents signed me up for lessons at age 8, and I think they thought it was going to be, the 6-week session, and then you were going to be done with it. And little did they know that they were in for a lot of stuff. So I actually have never owned my own horse. It's just not something that was ever financially in the cards for me. But I was super, super lucky. I found a lesson barn in Colts Neck, New Jersey, and the owner there, her name is Sandy Steisel, and she was lovely. So I would pay for lessons, and then she kind of always found stuff for barn rats to ride, right? There was
Yeah.
always kind of something. So I had this really nice opportunity to kind of ride a variety of things, which was super, super helpful.
Yeah.
And then when I went to college, it's really hard to find horses in Boston. It's without a car, it's not really a
Yeah.
feasible thing. So horses kind of became the thing I did on breaks, the thing I did over, the summer. And then when I graduated, I came back to New Jersey and kind of dove back into the horse world. I was going to the barn probably 4 nights a week. I had no kids. I was
Yeah.
just living my best life. It was, it wouldn't trade the kids now, but the
Yeah.
ride time has certainly decreased since I had the kiddos.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've just been very fortunate to have kind of a good network of people that are willing to share their horses
Yeah.
with me. And then, the trade for work is also great, but sometimes you have to be careful that the balances don't kind of get skewed, right? Because there's a lot of people that'll, I don't want to say take advantage, that's not the right word, but um, it doesn't always work in favor of the person who's working trade, right? It's not
Yeah.
always tit for tat. So,
Yeah.
but it's a really nice opportunity, especially we're not that far. We were talking about this before we started recording. We're not that far from Wellington, and the horses in Wellington. I know you're in Hawaii, which is again a different level,
Yeah.
but horses in Wellington is a very different experience. So it's just been very interesting to be local to it and kind of see it firsthand. But it's been great.
Yeah. They do it. Well, I mean, they do a lot of different things with it down there, but a lot of polo too, or not in Wellington
Yes, so
specifically.
there's the Winter Equestrian Festival, which is Hunter Jumper. There's Global, which is the dressage based stuff, and then there's also polo. There's a lot of polo stuff. I
Yeah.
actually have the most trailers I see while I'm driving around is these polo ponies, 8 ponies in a trailer, getting where they need to go. But we're very fortunate, or I'm very fortunate. My husband doesn't ride; he doesn't care. But I'm very
You
fortunate
don't
to be
care.
so close to have all of these different options to be with horses. So it's
It's a
great.
good compromise at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that too. Did you know, so what is your own business? Do you have like an LLC? Are you freelance? Like, how does that work for you?
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little
So
bit.
I get to kind of back my way into it because I'm a medical provider. So because I'm a sole entrepreneur, that's like a little section on your tax forms that you can
Yeah.
fill out. So my business, I do it as a solo entrepreneur or a sole provider.
Yeah.
So I have an EIN, I have my national provider identification, and then that kind of is how my tax, which I just did, my taxes, all kind of
Reminder out there.
goes, yeah, all kind of goes in the sole provider bracket of things. So that's how it goes.
No, awesome. So how did you determine to do the sole provider? Or did you hear that from somebody else? Like that's the best route, or did you
Yeah,
research? Because
sorry, I talked right over you there.
oh, go for it. No,
My
go for it. Answer.
my husband's a lawyer, so I lucked into a really nice support network. So
Yeah.
when we were kind of looking at me doing my own thing, which happened because of COVID, which I think you'll find a lot of people kind of took a 180-degree turn during COVID. So I kind of said, well, what are we going to do? Right. I was working a traditional job. I never thought I was going to be anything other than a regular therapist who went to the office 5 days a week and treated people and then came home. COVID hit. I didn't have a job waiting for me to come back to after COVID. I had 2 kids. My kids are 3 and 1.
Oh,
And we
wow.
kind of looked at each other and went, well, what now?
Yeah.
So he very nicely kind of took the lead in kind of decoding what the options were and what was going to make the most sense for where I kind of was, and
Yeah.
then what we were gonna think about going forward. So I have not hired really any staff, really any employees. I think
Yeah.
if I hire somebody, then I go into a different
An S corp or something, I
yeah, I
think,
think
or
an S
C
corp is
corp or
the
something.
next. Yeah, I think S corp is the next thing. And there's, I'm Facebook is a lovely thing. There's lots of groups and stuff, and there's this one that I'm on that's called Uncaged Clinician, and they kind of have a lot of nice discussions about what's the benefit of one versus the other. So if I ever reach that point where I need to hire somebody, I'll have my husband in my back ear going, "This is what we should do," and then I have a nice kind of Facebook help as well. So
And you got the uncaged, what is it called?
uncaged
Clinician?
clinicians or clinician.
Clinicians. I just usually add these things in the descriptions for anybody out there that may be in the same field as you.
Yeah.
So I try to add that for any reference for them.
Yeah. So that's
Um,
been, if they're thinking about kind of going non-traditional or kind of branching out on their own, that
yeah.
was a really nice place. I was kind of a silent lurker for a little while we were kind of making some decisions. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of nice discussion and a lot of things have been covered, which is nice to have.
Awesome. So how long did it take you? Did you have people that switched over to you, or was it like starting from scratch? Because you also had moved basically during the pandemic, it sounds like, or maybe just
So I
after, right?
started, yeah. So we moved timelines are all fuzzy after the
2 years
pandemic.
after, I know.
Okay, so the pandemic was March of 2020.
Yep.
I started seeing people where I put my little flag out and said, "Hey, let's start this probably the end of April, right? Because things were crazy from March to April. Nobody was really doing much of anything. Everything was
Yeah.
kind of,
And you were still
very,
in Jersey.
very, yeah, I was still in Jersey. Things were very cautious. Even though I was a medical provider, right? People were still kind of very locked down, particularly traditional PT. A lot of people are geriatric, so they were
Yeah.
very, rightfully so, very concerned about their COVID exposure. So it was probably, yeah, end of April, beginning of May, where I really kind of said, let's put my name out there. And again, my support network was lovely. I had a friend who brought me out to her farm right away and said, "Hey, let's do this. I have a couple of people that really need you." And then so it was a combination of the horse world that I had kind of grown up in, being older and having issues, and people who are equestrians know horseback riders are kind of beat up in general. We take a beating when we ride.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of people who switched over to me, but really that initial core group of people came from my equestrian community, which was lovely. And then more and more traditional people kind of jumped ship or came over to me, right? I had a horseback rider said, "Hey, my mom had a total knee replacement. Will you come see her?" Sure, I will. No problem. Let's talk about it. So and it kind of grew very nicely from there, to the point where I had gone back part-time to one to kind of see, could I do both, right? Could
Yeah.
I make a little bit more money by going part-time somewhere else? And really, I had enough people that I didn't need the part-time thing, which was fabulous.
Yeah.
Um, so
And that
then
was
when
just
we
through,
moved,
oh,
go
sorry,
ahead.
that was just through word of mouth or
So I had a Facebook page, I had an
with that too.
Instagram
Okay.
account, I put up a flyer at the tax store. And the horse world in New Jersey is a pretty small place. So once
Yeah.
you start to say, "Hey, this is what I'm doing," if you do it well, people start to say, "Hey, this girl is doing this. I think it would be helpful for you."
Was there anyone
I
else that
sent a
was kind of
couple,
doing
yeah,
something
I sent a
similar at the
couple of
time?
cold emails too, right? Where, and that's always interesting. We're like, "Hi, this is who I am. If you don't want to hear from me ever again, I understand completely, right? But this is what's going on." So I had some nice responses from that too. So it's a mix of things, but the budget wasn't huge at the beginning, right? The budget
Yeah.
was almost non-existent for
Yeah.
advertising. So
Yep.
it was a lot of,
Or-
word of mouth, Facebook, things that were free, things that,
Yep.
I went to a couple of shows and, paid a nominal fee, and then just kind of set up my table, did that a little bit. Just grassroots stuff.
Can we talk about, well, two questions. So
Yeah.
was anyone else doing that? Like, so like you said, it's a small industry. So once they get to know you, but was there any other person that was doing something similar, or once you started doing it, it was kind of like, oh, this is great. We finally have someone doing this.
Yeah, so that was more the reaction that I got was, "Oh, this is great." There are certainly physical therapists who specialize in riders throughout the US.
Mhm.
There's actually a list, the USEF has a list of approved physiotherapists. I'm actually not on that list because
Huh.
the steps that you have to take a course with someone who's named Andy Thomas. He's in England. But with COVID, he hasn't come back to offer the course. So I'm kind of in
Huh.
limbo there. But there are people who specialize in it. But it's definitely an underserved community, right? So I've had
Yeah.
more people tell me, "Oh, I went to the orthopedic because my knee was bothering me," and they didn't understand what like a rising trot or a posting trot looks like, what I need to be able to do for that, right? Or, oh, I talked to my physical therapist and they sort of got it, but they really didn't understand. And,
Right.
these are people who are highly active, right? They need to be able to get up and go and do stuff. And really being underserved by their community, by their medical community. So it was nice to be able to step up and kind of fill that role.
Yeah. My second. So kind of bridging off of that, my other question was different before. I already forgot it. But how come he is he the only person that you can get certified through, or like how like
So
why wouldn't you make
yeah,
your own,
so right. So if you go to the USCF website, it has a list of people, and I think the list is not extensive. It's probably 10 to 15 people. And their process is you have to have taken this course with Andy Thomas. But on the little website, it says there are no plans to have further courses with Andy Thomas. So I've
Hmm.
emailed and asked, and it's kind of I don't know I don't know if they're going to kind of shelve that program or what they're doing with that, but it's
Yeah, interesting.
interesting that they have access to this and they're just not looking to add more providers, because I think there are a growing number of people out there doing it, but that
Yeah, I
particular
suppose.
avenue, they're not interested. Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe y'all can team up those who are on the list already, and then team up to provide me there something similar, or
Right.
you
Right. Or
know
some different way of doing it. Yeah.
right,
So,
or just just like a list even on your own website, right? It's just like
right.
I provide this. Here's some other like, well, I mean, not that you want to give away competition, but
I mean,
if
I
it's in
don't
different
mind,
areas, yeah,
it's not a competition type thing, especially if you're not in my area, right? Like I've had
right,
people in Texas reach out to me and be like, "Hey,
yeah,
there is no one within 5 hours of me. Like, let's talk." So that's where the telehealth part comes in too, right?
yeah,
It's this kind of virtual coaching, which has been really nice because there's so much technology out there. People video their rides, and I get to look at their rides, and then we kind of chat back and forth about what they're doing, what they're feeling, things that they could try. And so I've had a couple of really nice results with the telehealth as well. So
yeah,
it's a nice option, but it doesn't replace kind of in person. So
yeah.
um,
I mean,
but
that is a nice thing. Like, there's definitely a lot that like I can do. I have taught like virtual classes and in martial arts, and some of them will have like siblings there or parents there, and they'll at least have that like contact, because it's really important to have that. You can learn a lot for sure with movement, with just getting a good workout in, with shadow boxing, and that's a big proponent too. It's like doing your homework and being in class, right? So
right.
having both is very important, unless you're doing that private training with other people. But the point is, it's like I'm definitely trying to build that out as well. I do enjoy the in person for sure, and I think it keeps me accountable for my own business. But my dream one day is to be able to travel a little bit more, to potentially own property in Spain. That'll be an equestrian property
Oh,
mixed as
cool.
like a martial arts place, maybe archery as well, kind of like an adventure camp type thing, which we shall see.
Sounds
And I do
awesome.
want,
Right? It
yeah,
sounds awesome.
as we're running around on our day-to-day life, whether we're running to business meetings or video calls, or we're physically running around either on the field if you play sports, in the gym, or in your martial arts classes, it's really important to understand what you are putting on your body and what's going to protect you. So definitely check out Panty Promise. It's our favorite and most trusted panty brand to use and wear on a daily basis in all of those occasions. They're sleek, they're nice, and they're fashionable. So you can use our code TASKOFIT, TASKOFIT, to get 20% off of your next order. That's pennypromise.com. I'm definitely still kind of like, I guess this is year 2 officially, because I was back and forth from Jersey because my grandma was, she was sick, and was my best friend. I hate saying was because she's still my
Yeah,
best friend, but she
no,
passed
yeah,
away.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Um,
That's tough. Grandma, I have the best grandma and she's
yeah.
amazing. I get it. I get it. So,
Yep. I mean, grandmas are just amazing. So she was everybody's like, her and my grandfather, but my grandfather passed away years prior during like my high school orientation. So not to bring down the podcast, but
yeah.
when you were talking about like the COVID protocols and everything, and you like a lot of the patients being geriatric, it reminded me of like all the people that were coming in. I think it was 2021 that they were
Mhm.
coming, like end of it going into 2022,
Yeah.
that I was seeing that and how important that is, and how important it is to be there in person and not just to get them moving. But if you're a good physical therapist, if you're a good doctor, you're a good nurse, it really makes all the difference in the world to those folks' quality of living, because it's like you
Yeah.
bring that energy in or whatever, whether it's virtual or in person, but when you bring that energy in and you're bright, and even if they're like having a crappy day, like you can really make all that difference in the world. And I've seen that. Like there was one person that just did not mesh well, and it was so great. I'm really, really grateful that they switched the nurse, because the next nurse that came in was super, super wonderful. She's a nurse based out of Jackson, I think, New Jersey, or
Yeah.
like New Egypt or something.
Yeah.
And Nurse Nicole, shout out. So I'm gonna send that to her. But yeah, she was just super sweet, and you could tell she really cared. Like she would have gone out of her way to. And Grandma was amazing too, because she was just that welcoming, even though she was in pain. Like she would do her thing. So you know,
Yeah.
anyway, getting back to like what I'm hoping to do in my future. I don't know how I got into that tangent, but except, love you, miss you, grandma.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it was because you're in year 2, right? That was how we
yeah.
kind of started
Yeah.
on that.
So,
Yeah.
yep. So still growing and still just trying to get my name out there and keep myself accountable as well for my own fitness and training. But honestly, like there's just so much of like debt still that I'm paying off because of the moving back and forth. And
Yeah.
granted, I was helped with the flights and stuff, but when you're not here, you're missing
Right.
potential work
Yeah.
opportunities, which I
Yeah.
wouldn't change for the world. But now it's a slow process back, but there is progress, and I'm super excited for it because I am getting more students. Which at one point there was like a year of just um I had one set of students from one family, and I'm very grateful to them because they talked to people.
Right.
They're always sharing it. And I'm just
Yeah.
grateful to have had influence in their own lives, and they stay consistent. So, it's just I want to build that in person, of course, like wherever I go, but I also want to be able to have some sort of form of online, which is where this is all coming from, that telehealth, right? So,
Yeah.
and there is value to it. Like people do the online courses, and some people really, really need that in person, but doing both is really important. So I think, if you guys want that, like treat, not tutoring, I guess, kind of tutoring or private focus, maybe. I mean, mine are a little bit less money. I don't know what yours go for if you do telehealth, but that's a great way to still be able to
Yeah.
reach out to you guys and get that, and not have to necessarily pay so much. But
Right. And so I
great.
kind of go by the in physical therapy and in the business, right? Something is better than nothing, right? So
Mhm.
you gained nothing if you don't reach out. You've gained nothing if you haven't tried the telehealth. You gained nothing, right? So you
Right.
may as well try it, and maybe you learn one thing, maybe you realize telehealth's not for you, and that's okay, right? That's fine. But it's always, in my opinion, it's always worth doing something. So even though you might miss out on the hands-on interventions, or you might miss out on the physical corrections or whatever, there's still a lot to be gained from the virtual sessions too. So especially, it's 2024, we've got wonderful kind of interactive stuff that we can use. So it's definitely a nice option to have, especially if you're someone who's maybe very remote, right? Like this one,
Yeah.
Texas is huge, right? So she was like, it's literally 5 hours for me to go to anywhere that's close. All right,
Yeah.
telehealth it is, right? So
And those are the people that are willing to learn that way too, and I get it. Like everybody needs their own stuff, and some people are like, I just really need somebody like in person. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm pretty good about
promise I
feeling
can do
like,
some, right? I promise I can
yeah.
do some. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that, and plus it's like I have a pretty decent sized presence. So whether it's online or in person, you're gonna feel that energy.
Right.
So
You're gonna know that I'm here, right? You're gonna know
yes.
I entered. Yeah.
There's no getting away with it. You can ask one of my other
Yeah.
clients. She knows very well.
Like
Shout out to
it.
Quinell on that one too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so what's been more lucrative for you? So, we're in the business that we love what we do, and I'm sure we would do it for free, and probably have done it for free when like we've been volunteering and building that. But
Hmm.
at this stage, you can still do some volunteer, but at this point it has to be like understanding and knowing your value as well. And I think you've been doing it for a decent amount of time, not necessarily with your own business, but in just
Yeah.
physical therapy in general.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot that you've learned. But what's been more lucrative for you? So, what I was getting at was focusing on making sure that you have that income to be able to sustain yourself on. So, I know you're married, and I'm sure like
Yeah.
that comes into play too. But what's been more lucrative for you, or has it been more even, the telehealth or in-person stuff?
So I would say it's tipped pretty heavily on the in-person stuff, and whether
Mm,
that's on me because I haven't been as active on promoting the telehealth, or if that's
yeah.
just the nature of what I do, right? So physical therapy there's a lot of like hands-on stuff. There's a lot of mobilization. There's a lot of stretching. So that tends to be, people think more of hands-on stuff. So in terms
Yeah.
of like the balance of my practice and who I see, it's probably 80-20. Hands-on is 80, in person is 80%, and then the telehealth is 20%. That also varies depending on time of year, because down here in Florida, most people leave in the summer because it is ungodly hot. Um, so in the summer, it shifts a little bit, it skews a little bit more towards the telehealth
Yeah.
realm. But generally it's more hands-on. So in the summer, I actually leave to do some of my work too. I go back to New Jersey, I go back to Pennsylvania, I go back up that way and kind of treat barns and stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. Recommend it. But in the Florida aspect, it's definitely been more hands-on, and then it slows down a bit in the summer.
Yeah. I mean, I love Jersey. I love being from Jersey. I also love having the opportunity to have left.
Yeah, well, look,
That
it's good to experience all things, right? It's good
yeah.
to experience all things, but I'm never gonna knock on New Jersey. I had a
Yeah.
wonderful time growing up there. I had a wonderful time kind of starting my family there. It was
Yeah.
lovely, and it prepares you in a way that people who aren't from New Jersey, I think, don't understand, that you are now ready to go into just about any situation, right?
Yeah.
Because you have almost seen it, right? Or you've felt
Yeah.
the vibe coming off of a situation. So there's definitely something to be said for being from New Jersey.
Yeah, especially if you're more towards the shore too. So you're a little bit more north. Like I grew up in Bayville, New Jersey, like I said, slash Jackson, because my grandparents were in Jackson, and also
Yeah.
Beechwood, because my aunt and uncle were there. And
Okay.
then,
So
I had
yeah.
yeah, and then I go up to Lake George for the summers with my other side of the family. So that's actually how I have this like this Hawaii opportunity through the New York family. But yeah, so Bayville, Ocean County, and then yeah, but the point is, it's like it's interesting because some people like just stay and never get out of there, right? But at the same time, it's like you have the Pine Barrens there with the forest, you have the ocean right there, which is connection to the world,
Yeah.
and then you can still go west and hit Pensy or whatever, Pennsylvania, and
Yeah. So
go
I
north
was
to
a
New
little
York.
bit more north than you. So our
Yeah.
version was going into New York City, right? So
Right.
I grew up not that far from Red Bank, which
Yep.
is a large commuting population. So there were trains into the city. There was a ferry into the city. You could reach
Yeah.
New York
The
City
Highlands, right?
without really even thinking about it. You could get into the city. You could get to
Yeah.
Philly too. But New York was where we tended to, if we were talking about the city, we
Yeah.
meant New York.
Yeah.
Which was
Oh yeah.
also a really nice opportunity to be so close to New York City.
Yeah. I think I'm still referred to it as the city.
Yeah, right? It's just
I'm
the
like,
city,
we
whatever.
just know that means New York. Like, I don't know what else.
Yeah. Nothing
It's
wrong with
not
Philly,
LA.
but the city is
Yeah.
New York. Let's be
Well,
serious.
so it's interesting because here, like, I would have said like into the city, like meaning like into Honolulu, but because technically that is the city, but they call it town. So if you're going into
Okay.
the
Yeah.
city here, they call it
Right.
going into town because
Okay. Alright, just
small island.
different
Yeah.
vernacular, right? Yeah. Yeah.
But I ended up actually living and working in New York City and that's where I got my black belt out of Anderson's Martial Arts Academy. They're downtown, and I went to Pace University, also
Nice.
downtown.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, so I would go up. It's only an hour and a half, like drive or whatever, 2 hour train ride to get to there. And I loved it. I loved it because you had like airports near you, so you can get anywhere and everywhere, and
Yeah.
it really does like give you that that fight in you. And if you already have it in you, I think that's how you survive there, because it's like, you have it, and
Right.
it just helps you to be able to
You own it a little
cultivate
bit.
it. Yep,
Yeah.
hone
Yep.
it and
Own it.
cultivate it.
Yep.
So I definitely appreciate it for that, but I'm also glad to be out of it, because coming from the shore, coming from like the woodsy area and loving animals and horses and having yardage, that was important to me to get back to that. But it's very easy to get stuck in the city. Or
Yeah.
for me, right? Like other people don't consider it stuck. They consider it like just being able to thrive and live there, and that's wonderful. And it's great to be able to for me to go back and as a knowledgeable visitor, so
Right, you know what
I'm
uptown
like,
and downtown mean, right? It's not a
yeah,
question of which
yep,
which subway are we getting on. We know I'm going
yeah,
uptown, I'm going downtown. I got it.
yeah, yep. And now I've learned a lot from like, my previous bosses too, and also just all the people that I've been introduced, not only through them, but that I've met throughout my own course of my career, and just building those relationships, and through this podcast too.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful to them and to that, and just just becoming my own entrepreneur, becoming my own person, and really just growing into that, and learning to not necessarily need the what is it, not the affirmation, but kind of like the affirmations or the constant like whatever, because you look for that. You look for
Yeah.
that
Well, oh,
from
you're
your
doing a good job, right? Look at you. You're doing a good job, right? That everybody wants to hear that, or everybody wants to kind of have the accolades, right? Oh, I'm
yeah,
doing this, I'm doing that. And social media is such a fine line on social media, right? It's so
yeah,
lovely to see, and you get kind of these ideas and you make these connections that you never would have made in a
yeah,
pre Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, whatever world. But the flip side of that is that you have access to all of these people and you go, dang, look what she's doing. I am 4 years in and I am
yeah,
not there, right? I am not there. I'm not that. I'm not this. I'm not that. So you have to be really careful not to kind of fall into that self spiral of doubt, and just know that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Everybody's kind of on their own journey, but it's sometimes easy to forget that if you get stuck in a TikTok scroll of
yeah, and
things.
especially when you're on your own and you have like you don't necessarily have that mentor available to you anymore for whatever reason, and
Yeah.
still like you see that or whatever, and that's okay. Like again, it is learning to deal with that, and I think martial arts is a big help with that. Again, still learning though, right? Like they always say, like when you get your black belt, it's like okay, you can start learning now. Like
You're
because it's
ready,
your
right? Yeah, go figure it
yeah.
out.
Well, it's just like, getting your degree. You've learned all up to it. Okay, now it's the time to put it into use. Try to use it and you learn even further. So now it's like your
Yeah.
graduate degree, right?
And
So,
the ET, I don't know, like I felt like we learned so much when we were in school, and Northeastern actually did a really great job. They had a co-op program, we did clinicals, we did all of these things. But I remember I set foot in my clinic the first day and I went, oh, well, I don't really know what I'm supposed to be doing. Where's the grown up, right? Where's the
yeah.
grown up? But again, that's just part of figuring it out. And you have to trust that they wouldn't put you in a situation that you couldn't handle, right? And
Yeah.
so after you do it a bunch, you go, oh yeah, this is no big deal. Here we go. We got this. But I remember the first eval I ever did, like by myself, solo, nobody there. I remember the moment of panic that you have where you're like, okay, here we go.
Yep.
So
That was me tacking up a horse by myself and then riding it. I was like, no
we're
one's
gonna
gonna
give
check
it
this
our
girth
best
for me.
shot, right? Again, where's the adult, right? Where's the adult? Oh,
How
it's
do I know
me.
if this
I'm
is
the
tight?
adult. Okay,
Yeah.
here we go. Here we go.
Yeah, it is scary. And I think honestly, like horseback riding does that for you too, just like martial arts. And just like it could be anything, guys. Like just do something that makes you slightly uncomfortable in order to be able to get past
Yeah.
that. But you have to do it consistently because otherwise it's just like I mean like unless it's like skydiving, but even still, like, that like that's a cool thing to like do and
Right.
get that fear factor out. But with stuff like this on the daily, in order to be able to grow, you do have to find that uncomfortableness. And for me right now, I'm again super grateful that I have this opportunity to work with Taineski Quintel, who's the owner of Hawaii Polo Academy up in North Shore. First of all, it's beautiful up there, but also like she teaches in a very like Argentine style, and I used
Mhm.
to actually live and study abroad in Argentina,
Well, so
so
that
it's
worked
kind
out
of
well.
comfortable.
Yeah,
Huh?
nice. I said that
Yeah.
worked out well. That was good prep for you. Good prep. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And she's from Hawaii too. So like, but she's dealt with like Argentinians and, has learned a lot through like the Argentine like gaucho style. And she plays
Yeah.
polo, obviously Hawaii Polo Academy. But and I should say her style is very much like kind of how mine is in martial arts. It's just like, all right, we're gonna progress you now. Like I've taught you, and it's just like, huh?
Here we go.
Like,
Catch your
yeah.
breath. It's coming.
And
Yep.
not in a bad way either. Like it's just like you're like, oh shit. Like you're
Okay.
trusting me to
I
do
guess I'm
this?
worthy. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess. Right. I guess.
Right. But even
Um.
if you're not, right? Like, I mean, you are, but you aren't. Not, it's not in a dangerous way. It's just in a like, cause she'll check it, right? Like,
Right.
but she will put it to you to like, with either writing or tacking up. And you, like, at least me right now, like, I get so nervous because I'm like, oh man, I don't want to fuck this up. Like, I've been studying my whole life for this. And like, I just want to be very useful. And,
Yeah.
like, did she think I had more experience because I've been working at this other volunteer like place too, and they do it differently? But just like every school, everything is different, and just learning their particular ways.
And
So
I
I,
think,
mhm,
the general thing is be coachable, right?
yeah,
Be trainable, be malleable, understand that everyone has something that they could teach you, right? You're not going to learn everything from everyone, but everyone has something that they can teach you. And I think I, part of that is the New Jersey thing again, right? Because there's so many people and you're so close to New York. There's always somebody who's better than you out there. And
Yeah.
this is not a bad thing. This is just
Right.
to remind yourself that any person that you come in contact with has something that you can learn from them in some capacity, right? It might not be
Yeah.
how to tack up a horse, but they might be able to tell you, this is what you want to look for in, their feet, or this is what you want to look for in, their feed or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so everybody has something. And I think the more that you can kind of stay open to people teaching you stuff, the better off you'll be both in the horse world and in the entrepreneur world and just in general. So it's just a nice reminder. And horses are really good at reminding you of all the things.
Yeah. Move your feet out of the way of their
Yes,
hooves because they will
oh,
stamp
yeah.
fast.
You didn't
um,
ask for that correctly, so this is what I'm giving you instead. Here you go.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
the thing too, is learning how to ask correctly. And also like, so with stuff like that, it can be very scary with martial arts, with like even physical therapy, helping other people. Like you don't want to hurt somebody, right? And it's not like you're trying to, and you're going into things like carefully, but things happen because the other person is a variable as well. So maybe they'll understand it a different way. And you're like, shh, like I should have,
Right.
maybe I
Not what
could
I
have
was
said that
said
differently.
it differently, right? Or done it differently, or if I had
Yeah.
been half a second sooner on the cue, maybe this would have happened instead. Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
And so, I mean, obviously you have to, and you will be at a certain level to where it's like not so detrimental, but things still do happen and you do learn from them. And again, hopefully it's not like so severe in any case. And, just there's still those hard lessons. I don't care how far into entrepreneurship you are, like they're going to be out there, but knowing that like having the people, like your support system there to help you and to kind of talk it through, and other professionals in the area
Yeah.
is very, very important. For me, it's really important, especially as an athlete who's running around literally constantly, or horseback riding. Lately, I've gotten back into that. It's really important to me that I have something that supports me underneath my clothes. So the best sports bras, which I'm talking about, is going to be from SheFit. I actively use them every day. When I don't have them on, I literally don't feel as supported. So I highly, highly recommend SheFit, which you can click the link below in the description, and you can use our link that'll lead you right to the site. And there's a lot of different options on there. They have a high support option for if you're doing more higher intensity, lots of jumping. And then they have more casual ones that you can wear either around the house or if you're just doing more of a lighter training session. So please check them out. SheFit Sports Bras. Actually, let's kind of talk about that, like your own support system. So I know you
Yeah.
talked about your husband as well, and also like the Facebook group. So are those primarily who you get your support from, or is there any in like close friends that you have there that you talk to, and
Yeah,
colleagues?
so I have my husband who's a huge support just because he's under the same roof as me and he was kind of here from the beginning. So he knows he does a lot of like the IT stuff for me and like all that kind of, so he's a
Perfect.
huge thing. Social media has been really a nice kind of to get different perspectives on things. I'm starting to grow my network down here of providers. There's a couple of physical therapy assistants that I've worked with that are really nice to kind of bounce ideas off of. Or if there's someone who's not getting better for whatever reason, it's really nice to kind of have that medical provider. I have a friend who's a chiropractor. She adjusts horses and people and dogs. She does everybody. I think cats
Wow.
too, but cats
Cool.
don't always like to be adjusted. But she does the whole enchilada.
Yeah.
But she is actually super nice to kind of bounce ideas off of as well because she is in touch with both the horses and the people. And Chiro and PT, there's a lot of overlap there. So if there's someone who's maybe not feeling so good or they need something a little different, it's nice to kind of reach out to her too. So and always be looking to grow your network too, right? So I have a nice kind of people that I work with in New Jersey. But it's, everybody can bring kind of something to the plate. So I try to get, I have a wonderful friend who's doing now a nonprofit that she co-founded. So I'm
Hmm.
fully intending on bouncing ideas off of her now that she's kind of got that off the ground. So you never know who's going to end up being part of your support network. So everybody can be, but those are who my kind of main people are.
Yeah, to get that nice back and forth too, just to know that you're also there for each other.
Right.
So
Right. Because it can be lonely, right? You work by yourself. It's a lonely thing. I can, PT, I'm with someone else the whole time, but it's nice to have another set of eyes, set of ears who I'm not trying to treat to get better to bounce stuff off of.
right. Or, again, without that mentorship anymore or wherever. It's just like you're
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Like there's no, I mean, some
Yeah.
people still have connections with them, and I think that's
Yeah.
amazing and how it should be, but sometimes maybe that option isn't available anymore. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, so, and for good reason, right? It's like,
Right.
okay, you want to fly,
Well,
time to fly.
and it's funny because as a college kid, I was not into the networking thing where
And
I was like,
yeah,
I'm not going to go and talk to people. I'm not going after class. I'm not doing it. I'm going to class and going home. That's it. Right. And how stupid was that, right? You have access to all of these people. So if I was going to go back in time, I would go smack my 20-year-old self and say, go to the social night or whatever and just go say hi
yeah,
to people. Um, but I actually did sign up to be Northeastern is starting a mentor, like an official mentorship program in the DPT program. So I have a mentee somewhere out there in space. Hopefully that'll continue to grow and people will have, because I think I would have done better with that if I had been matched to somebody and there was one particular person rather than going to random event where you're kind of standing by yourself. You don't really know anybody,
yeah,
which was my personal nightmare. I don't want to do that. But I think
yeah.
like an official mentor that was given to you, I feel like I would have done better with that. So I signed up to do that as part of giving back to stuff. So we'll see how that grows in the coming semesters here.
And teaching is the best form of learning. As
Right.
long as you know what you're talking about. Like there's a fine line. I don't know if that's
Right.
Socrates or Plato. I gotta look that up
Yeah,
again. But
ask the questions, right? Ask the questions and then
yeah.
they'll give you different insights. So yeah.
And it pushes you as again, to just stay accountable for your own learning and honest, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of going back to like your 20-year-old self though, what was it that held you back? Was it just like more, not an antisocial thing, I don't want to say that, or just like
You could
too
say
much energy
antisocial
into
thing.
that?
I think it was probably not burnout is not the right word, but you go to school, you go home, you do your homework. The last thing you want to do in my 20-year-old self was go back to school and hang out with
Right.
professors and people that I didn't know. And,
Yeah.
and now I look at kind of where I ended up and I go, oh, that was a networking. I should have gone all over that networking stuff. And, not that if I reached out to any of the professors that I had in school, I'm sure they would do their best to help me, but much nicer to have, and who knows who I would have met at those events,
Yeah.
right? It may not have been just a professor. It might not have been just another student. It could have been whoever. So that's a piece of advice is just always go and try it because you've got nothing to lose other than standing awkwardly in the corner. But when I
But
was
yeah.
20, that was worth it to keep me home. It was enough to keep me home, but I wasn't going to go to those.
Yeah. But even now too, right? Like it's not the same kind, like it's not like the university kind, which is a little bit more controlled and also can be that like awkwardness because just like this kind of feels forced, but kind of not. But like New York was great for that because you just like, oh, whatever, right? You guys want to go down the block or whatever.
Right. There's always people, right? There's always just go where
Yeah.
you want to be and there will be people there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
But and that can be hard. That can be hard for people who aren't necessarily social butterflies or who aren't really comfortable with just talking about different things. And this podcast for me has been really helpful because it's just learning to, I mean, I think I've always been a decent listener, but I think when you learn a lot and you want to like try to like let people know that you understand, you then start talking over or not listening as much. So, you know, this has been really helpful with just kind of listening and learning and understanding and being able to play back. And again, this is that resource too. You were talking about the mentorship, how, you would have really benefited from that. That's what this podcast is for people out there, other entrepreneurs, whether you're a physical therapist, martial arts instructor, horse ranch owner, or, just
Whatever.
anybody that I've had on
Yeah,
this
whatever. Yeah.
podcast. Yeah, we all have something in common, right? We're trying to survive running our own business, doing what we love. At least the people I've had on here, because if you don't love what you do as an entrepreneur,
What's the
you're in
point?
the
Yeah.
wrong.
That's
Yeah, you're on the
you're
wrong
doing
thing.
it wrong. Yep, you're doing it
Yeah,
because you're gonna work so many more hours being an entrepreneur than you ever would have worked at the 9 to 5, right?
yeah,
Just even if it's not the regular work, it's the behind the scenes, it's did the website go through, did you check your emails, did you check your voicemails, have you done all the things? So there's so many hours that go in. So if you don't love the thing that you're trying to do and trying to grow, why
right.
are you doing it? So
So that being said, why is it even worth it? Why do you do it?
yeah. So for me, it was the flexibility, right? So we started doing it because I got into PT because I had been injured and I spent 9 months in various PT places working on coming back to playing basketball. And so, it seemed like a good idea. And I honestly thought I was going to end up going to a therapeutic riding center. There's centers that do a lot of work with kids with disabilities, and they come and they ride horses. And I thought I was going to do that. And I did try it during one of my breaks at school. I went and I volunteered as like kind of the PT, the lead, taking the kind of the lead in the lessons. And what happened is I started to dread going to the barn. I didn't enjoy that kind of responsibility for it. It was taking something that was always so joyful for me and making it more work, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to go. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to have to think about all the things. So I said, okay, I'm going to separate them, right? Horses will be my enjoyment, and I will do traditional PT, and I'll go to work and it'll be fine. But now that I get to kind of tweak it a little bit, right? So it's more a little bit higher level riders. It's a little bit more, fine tuning things, right? And I kind of have control over how much I do. I have control over how many times I say yes. I have control over how many riders in a day I want to do. So for me, for being an entrepreneur is about having flexibility and control in what I say yes to and what I say no to and what I kind of can prioritize in my life. So having the flexibility and having the ability to really focus my energy in ways that I wanted to, it's been fantastic. I joke with my husband now, I'm like practically not employable as a full-time therapist anymore. Because I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do anything for 40 hours a week. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Nope. Or not in like the straight hours anyway, not like a 9 to 5. It's just like it's too much time in one place where you're not working all of the hours. Like now you're prioritizing like, okay, this is going to be 1 or 2 hours, but it's going to be an efficient and well used 2 hours. Not that it's not when you're at a 9 to 5, but there's only so much that you can do too.
So for me, so being able to say, I need to be able to be home to get my daughter from the bus. Okay, so every day from 2 to 3, I know that I'm not going to take a patient, right? Because I need to be able to get her. I need to get her home and get her settled, and then I can start working again at 3, and I can go from 3 to whatever. But having that flexibility and being able to make sure that I'm where I need to be when I need to be there. Like if I have a doctor's appointment, I say, okay, I'm not available on Monday at 10 a.m. I can do Monday at 11. I can do Monday at 9, but I can't do Monday at 10, right? And so having the control of that really makes the time that you are working much more joyful, much more pleasant, because you're in control of when you have to show up.
Yeah. I found that too. Like that's one of my favorite things, like, and just that it adds to the overall quality of life for yourself. So I work with 2 or 3, I think 2 other companies currently that do the same exact thing as me. And a lot of times there's other companies that'll deal with like a non-compete or whatever. And I'm just like, dude, like, I just need to make money. I'll make you money. Like, I'm not trying to steal your clients. Like, I mean, it would have been nice had they found me first in my business, but once you have them, that's fine. I'm not gonna, the best I'll do is be like, hey, tell your friends about me. Like, that's it. I'm not asking you, just tell your friends if you can.
To make me young, right?
Just other people, like that'll help me and just get my name out there too. So, and I appreciate that because it's just, again, I still pretty much get to make my own schedule. It does become hard though, because then you have to remember like all 3 schedules, my own schedule, the other business's schedule, and you have to put it in all their different systems because we all use different systems. So but I am much happier doing what I love to do and being accountable for that as well. Again, just a big word that I've been saying here, that accountability of like keeping me moving. When I first moved here, I worked in a restaurant, which was fun, kind of fast money once you started serving, but man, just the food industry, like I did it in college and I'm grateful to have been able to do it again here for a little while, but I don't ever want to go back to it. Like never, ever, ever again. So whatever I can do to stay doing what I'm supposed to be doing and getting that practice, I think is really important. And sometimes it works the other way where it's like, okay, keep trying what you're trying and do something totally different so it doesn't like interfere, but it's going to be with the time frame anyway. So and the biggest thing for me when I was like waitressing, like the hours were okay too, but it was still like, I don't know, from 3 or 4 o'clock until 9 or 10 at night. And sometimes you're waiting around.
You're tired at the end of it too, right? Like I'm mentally and physically, not waitressing, but PT, I'm mentally and physically done at the end of the day.
Like I'm going to watch TV. I'm not going to work.
Yes, I'm going to put on Netflix. I'm going to just sit around. Like that's it.
And maybe that says something about me, but you know.
I don't think so. I think everybody's there, right? I think everybody's
Yeah.
there.
My
But
cousin's
even
she's a beast. She doesn't do that. I'm like, okay, whatever. She's got a great line, by the way. She's the one that lives in West Palm Beach.
mhm.
She owns a Panty Promise, which is a totally organic cotton panty brand, and like
Oh,
has the biggest thing too is like, yeah, it's organic cotton, so it's better for, you know, your
right.
feminine self, and
Yeah,
also just
all
the
the
way.
things. Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, seamless, which is really nice, but it's also very comfortable the way it's fitted, and you know, the gusset design is different, so it actually protects what it's supposed to protect, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just nice. Like there's not like all these different patterns and designs. It's supposed to be just like kind of like nude colors and stuff, but it's super comfortable, and yeah, so I love her brand, so definitely check that out if you can.
Yeah.
But I was going to ask you, so what there was a couple of things. Where can so for example, and then, you know, I'll be cutting this down soon because we're getting on with time. But
Yeah.
let's say like, okay, let's say I fell off a horse. Let's just say
Yeah.
that happened in January.
Hypothetically, you fell off a horse.
Hypothetically in January.
Asking for a friend.
But seriously, so I fell off for the first time. So, you know, I'm like, all right,
Yeah,
congratulate
right
me,
on.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club. It's gonna
Thank
happen
you.
again.
Yep.
Yep. That means
Yep.
you're
So
learning. That's good.
it does. So that's the biggest thing, right? So my first thing when I did fall off, so longer hypothetical, was
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I know how to break fall. I have taken jujitsu. It's been a while. I'm taking classes, but I know like chin tucked, slam your
Right.
hands down at the ground, and like that's what I'm thinking. Because usually when we're
Yeah.
falling from standing down. But this time
Yeah.
I
It's a
kind of
little
went
it's a little different coming off the back, especially if you're moving off the back of a horse, right? It's a little
cantering.
different. Yeah, okay. So high speed off the back of a
Yeah,
horse. Yeah,
on a
it's a little
turn.
different. Yeah, yeah, that's usually how it goes. Yeah, because
But
everything's on your balance gets all shifted and wonky.
yeah, and I didn't quite get launched. I kind of felt it happening, and I think I
Yeah.
kind of held on a little bit. And then she said it kind of looked like either like a pretzel that was breaking or a burger bun that was folding. She's like, you kind of just went up and then flopped.
Folded in half. Yeah. Okay.
Right, which I'm
Yeah.
like trying to imagine that. So anyway, my point to this though is like, because she's like, she because I train, right? I train, I do work my core, I work it with martial arts, and it's always different though. It's different running
Right.
versus different doing Muay Thai
Yeah.
class versus riding a horse. And it's different, but I think it's also connecting those dots. And I think
Mhm.
that's what you probably are very good at, is helping people to learn how to do that. So
Right.
let's say I came to you, I'm like, I slammed my back. Okay. So my break fall, I did my upper body fine. Good.
Right.
No hitting the
Yeah.
head. My shoulder didn't re-dislocate from like years
Okay.
ago.
Good.
That
We
was
got
good.
positives happening. Yeah.
And I knew as soon as I was falling, I was like, okay, break fall. I know how to do this. And also midair, I was thinking, but shit, this is from like further off the
Way higher
ground. Is
up.
this the
Way
same
higher up.
technique?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I should
So
have probably kept rolling instead of, or
the
tried to roll it.
ball, right? The ball is kind of
Yeah.
the general idea is you're trying to make a ball, right? So you
Yeah.
kind of bring everything in, so you protect kind of all of these, because break fall is a great idea. But if you're coming from 4 feet up and you don't land it just right, now you can kind of get these foosh things going on your wrists and
Yeah.
stuff. Um,
I slammed my lower back to the ground.
yeah. So the,
It
the ball is what you
with
control
the
it,
legs
you land where
too.
you land. Yeah, you land where you land. But
I've seen a couple of different ways. Like one stunt guy, like again, because YouTube University sometimes.
yeah,
Because like
sure.
after these things happen, I'm like, okay, what went wrong? How can I fix it? Like, because I want to enjoy riding and I want to be better at it. And honestly, like, because the falls usually are going to happen one way or another, I want to be able to land better. And I've seen people land on their feet. They know how to jump off. So I think that's also working your agility and your flexibility, because right now with the way my body is, I feel very stiff.
So if you came to me and you said, I fell, I hurt my back, I don't want this to happen again,
Right.
what should I do to fall different, right? We would talk about the exercises that we can do for your back to get your back feeling better. That's one of the
Yeah.
places we would start. We would talk about your ankle mobility, right?
Yeah.
Because if you are in the air trying to figure stuff out, we talk about your ankle mobility. We would talk about your knee range of motion, your knee mobility. We would talk about your hips a lot, right?
Yep.
Because where the rider kind of sits on the horse, right? It's all in our hips. It's all, not all, but 90% of it is in our hips, right? And how our hips are on the saddle. And so especially if you're turning at speed, right? And things get a little shifty, if
Yeah.
you can control where your hips are and you can control kind of your core correcting back over that, that's a really nice way to kind of maintain control. But I will tell you, there's no way to guarantee that you cannot fall off
Well,
ever
so
again.
that's the thing, right? A, being able to understand how to keep your seat and not fall off, but B, also, what happens when and if you do to prevent further or like serious injury,
Yeah,
like it's like,
yeah.
and also like I've seen people where they try to like hold on to the horse and not fall off. Like, is that also okay? Like, you know what I mean? There's so
That's
many
a very
variables.
situational type thing, right? So if
Yeah.
you're in the Olympics and you're cross country, and that's where you see a lot of these spectacular saves, right? Yeah, you fight like chickens to save it. And it doesn't matter what you look like, and it doesn't matter what happens, and it doesn't matter who you traumatize. You're staying on that horse and you're going to finish this round because it's the GD Olympics, right?
Yeah.
If you are training at home, sometimes leaving and then regrouping is actually a better answer.
So one of the best tools that I make sure I have in my home gym is the Anchor Fitness Cable Machine. It's small, it's portable. I can use it for my students here at Tasco Fit Martial Arts, also with the Hawaii hurling team, and honestly just to condition myself for horseback riding or really anything that I'm kind of delving into. And there's a lot, but this is a very dynamic system. And again, the essential part about it, it's light, it's portable, and it gives you the same effect as a cable machine that you will find in any of the gyms that you've gone to. So it's really innovative. It's American built. We've teamed up with them to give you guys a discount. So next time you go to check out there, you can use our discount code TASCOFIT11, TASKOFIT11.
Right? Sometimes that frantic, let me hold on, let me do all this, you can end up in a worse
Right.
position, right? You can end
under the
up on
horse or
this horse
something.
who now is not super thrilled that this monkey on its back is in a weird spot, right? Not loving where you're pulling to try to save yourself, right? So not that
Yeah.
I'm advocating exiting stage left anytime something goes wonky, but
Right.
having an awareness of, okay, I literally am halfway off my horse. I have no stirrups. The horse is cantering. I have no way of climbing back on. Maybe falling with a little bit of control into the ring dirt and not being launched into the side of the ring is the
Yeah.
better option, right?
Sure.
So, I think everything is very situationally dependent, right?
You should do a course on that one. That last one.
Yeah,
I'll take
right
that
on.
course.
We talk about that for a long time, right? Don't get me
Yeah.
started. I could talk for a very long time about landing and the forces that get absorbed through landing, and what you're riding and how you're doing, and whether holding on is really a better option, because let's
Right.
remember these 1,000-pound animals, right? So
Right.
at the end of the day, if the horse wants to leave, the horse is going to leave.
Yeah.
Right. I joke that, one of the only times in my equine career that I've been walked through was by a mini donkey. This thing was probably, 200 pounds, 300 pounds, this little tiny donkey. And she just went, no, I'm going here. And I went, I guess. And she just walked through me. So it depends on, yeah.
What an ass.
Seriously. They call that for a reason.
Yeah.
It depends on the horse as well, and kind of knowing, okay, I'm on someone who will stop if I say whoa, or I'm on someone who's going to leave whether I'm holding on or not. So there's a lot of, how do you mitigate the thing that's going on at the moment, right? And how do you set both yourself and the horse up for success in the future too, right? Because you don't want to end up we've now gone around the ring 75 times while you're trying to catch, which little kids do often, right? They're kind of in this,
or new adults, right? Or different people.
Right? Because and it's not a knock on anybody. They're just they have new tools in their toolkit for what do I do, what happens now, right? So,
and it's so like you. Yeah, sorry. So it's so situationally based as well. I mean, there's basics, right? So there's basics that you should know, just like in martial arts. You got to know your stance, have your guard up, work that. And then again, staying light on the feet too. It's like being able to hold your ground, but staying light on the feet. So it's like, when do you implement that? And when do you implement the other thing? And that hard part is that learning curve. And I love horses. And I just want to be better, faster. But like I tell my students,
I just want to be good. I know. I know.
For me and the horse, it's just like surfing too. It's just like, I don't want to be the asshole out there that's like making squeaky noises on accident on the board because I'm trying to get back up on it. And then, shark's like, ooh, who is this?
Here we go.
Like again, because it's not like, because I'm trying to be the one not to do this stupid thing. But again, you're also learning. So it's really
right? You're learning. And so the person that you're learning from should be doing a good job matching you with the horse that you're ready for, right? And so sometimes, like we were talking about earlier, she's going to level you up whether
Yeah.
you feel like you're ready or not, right? So
Yeah.
you've gone now from this horse who's very, very tolerant of mistakes and probably wouldn't bat an eye if you know, screamed on his back, to maybe a horse that's a little bit more sensitive because you're ready to kind of progress in that way. So you have to kind of also trust in your network, or
Yeah.
your trainer, that they're going to help you when you're ready for that kind of push in the backside to
And
move
yeah,
forward.
it's hard to, even as a trainer as well, because there's so much that you're looking at or concentrating on, and you do want to push your students. But there's only so much that you can also see at one time. You know, it's like, okay, I'm looking at
Yeah.
the seat, what's happening, but not realizing she's not holding the reins tighter while she's going faster, which I didn't know. You know, I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
hold
you're
my
figuring
seat. You
it out.
know,
Yeah, you're figuring it
so
out.
and
Um,
afterwards, she's like, yeah, because the horse's head's is going down. That's what happened to me. Like we were cantering, the horse's head like went down, which had happened before. Plus, it's a
mhm.
whole polo horse, so like the mane
Right.
is shaved except for just a
Yeah.
little piece, which I was
Right,
holding
the
on to.
mohawk. Yep, the mohawk, yeah.
But if you get bounced out, you're like that
Not much
little
to
piece is
see
not gonna.
you. Not much to see you.
But again, and you know,
But
she's amazing, and I'm still learning up there, and you know that again, it was a learning curve. So my question to you, you know, with all this being said, where can people find you if something like that were to happen and they want to contact you in order to be able to get that help that they
yeah.
need to have a better seat or take your courses online? Where can they find this?
Yeah. So I have a website, so that's you've found it, but it's www.dcstherapy or some variation of that. I've owned all of them, so they will all come to that website. So
Good.
some variation of www.dcstherapy, dcsphysicaltherapy.com. That's probably the easiest way to find me. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. My goal for this year is to grow TikTok a little bit
Yeah.
because I feel like there's a wider audience that could be reached.
Yeah.
I'm working on that. I'm
Sure.
working on that. So I am kind of all of the places, DCS therapy. But
Is
the
that
website, if you're looking to get in touch with me, the website is probably the easiest way to do that. It has my phone number on it. It has my email. There's a form submission that you can do to kind of get in touch with me. So, but I take DMs on Instagram. I take Facebook messages, all the things.
and you do have that course, which also acts not only as helpful to the people who are looking for the help, but also acts as nice passive income for yourself,
Yeah,
which is good
exactly.
as
So
a business owner, you know?
yeah, so it was a play on a couch to 5K, right? So
Yeah.
we've all kind of seen these things, right? You want to be able to run a 5K in 6 weeks or whatever it is. So it was, I think, 6 weeks of exercises, and they get progressively harder. And I think it's 3 active days and then 2 stretch days.
Nice.
And so creating it was super fun. It was something that I hadn't done before. So it was kind of a very much a learning curve. Finding the platform that was going to host it,
Yep.
and then you doing some beta runs on some lovely friends of mine and past clients that were willing to go, hey, your sound's not working on week 2, come back
Yeah.
in and fix that. So that's another nice option if you're just looking for some general fitness. I haven't been doing much. It's been winter in the Northeast and a lot of, the country. So if you've been inside, and that's a nice way to kind of do that as well. But yeah, it's definitely a nice passive, which is great because you only have to make it once. And on the entrepreneur side, the passive stuff is, lovely.
And that's specifically though, it's geared towards like, I mean, obviously it's good to just get movement in, but if you are looking to horseback ride or you are horseback riding, it's a really great way to do some sport specific training for that.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Awesome. And then just last but not least, what is the one piece of advice, if you had to choose one, I suppose, or what is it that you would like to share with our listeners that either you wish you had known or just that you have learned throughout your time as an entrepreneur and just working in this field? What's something that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, so I think we kind of touched on it already, but just never undervalue a potential conversation, especially for physical therapy. You never know when you're talking to somebody who that might turn into a client, or they might know somebody that needs somebody, or they might be able to help you in a certain way. So my daughter plays softball, and her coach has a daughter and said, "Hey, I think her knee is bothering her. Can you get her looked at?" So truly, you never know where your next good thing is going to come from. So, just be willing to engage in whoever wants to talk to you, whoever is interested in talking to you. You know, that doesn't mean you have to continue the conversation if it's going poorly, but be willing to talk to just about anybody that comes along. And that's kind of, you know, I'm doing some SEO stuff on my website, and I was able to reach out to the girl who took the photos for the book that I wrote. I said, hey, do you know anybody? And so she hooked me up with an SEO guy. So you never know where the connections are going to come from. So just be willing to talk to anybody and everybody about anything, really. Just be networking always.
Yeah, and just like what Bruce Lee was going what Bruce Lee was going on about, what he was going on about in his philosophy, like within martial arts, but also in life too, is absorb what is useful and disregard what is not, right? And make it uniquely, or
Yeah.
I'm fudging up, or I'm
Paraphrasing, yeah,
paraphrasing, yeah.
same
And then
idea.
make it uniquely your own, right? So it's the same thing. So learn what you can from everybody and whatever works for you, or you know, you can also take and choose, right? Like you can try certain things and maybe it'll work for you at that time. And then at some point you'll have to change it and go into your toolbox and take those other lessons too. It might just keep cycling through. So definitely take that into account. And yeah, Dr. Danielle, I thank you so, so much for coming on and having this conversation with me, and being available for my listeners and just for those entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fun. I love to chat with a horse interested Jersey girl anytime. Anytime.
Hell yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening out there, and enjoy. I hope you have enjoyed this show, and stay tuned for the next episode. Aloha.